tuned in to the Creative Ass Podcast.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Creative AF Podcast, where we talk about everything in the arts and entertainment. My name is Michael Mueller, owner of the M3 Creative Studio, joined by Curtis Wyatt, actor, director, writer, and head of TV and film at M3 Creative. Our sponsor today is the Atlanta Film Production Group. They're pretty active on Facebook. It's a pretty large group for the indie film community. I think that's a fair assessment. Today we're going to be talking about film festivals and contests, the pros and cons. Curtis, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and I can't wait until we get into this, because I'm a big fan of the film festivals, baby. And I can tell by your face you're not.
Why are you? Let's talk about pros.
Pros to film festivals. All right, so being an indie filmmaker, the reason why I got out in front of so many people and why I have so many connections now is because of film festivals. Making my own film or being an actor that was a part of a film, the connections, the people that you meet, end up working on other productions. For me, it was a huge networking opportunity. And what I mean by huge, I mean huge.
So tell me about the festivals that you have gotten the opportunity to take part in or have been selected for.
All right, so the ones that I've been selected for, the Sydney Indie Film Festival.
Okay.
The San Francisco Black Film Festival.
Okay.
I also...
And this was for your feature?
Yeah, so all this is for the film that I wrote and directed.
Not short films?
No.
Okay.
This is all for what I wrote and directed called Swipe Club.
Okay. And which you starred in as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think that's important too, because I think there's a big difference in what if someone's going that route with a feature versus a short. Because I think too, right? It's I don't want to say less. I think there's probably oversaturation with shorts getting into film festivals.
But I also believe that you have a better chance of getting a short into a film festival than you do an actual feature.
Really?
Yes, because feature, it's so hard, especially if you're making a certain genre or a certain type of feature. Like comedy, which is something that I always talk about being one of the hardest genres to nail because everybody has a different sense of humor.
Right.
So like getting into a film festival with a comedy is extremely difficult. Now, if you have a comedic short, I think you have a better chance. And also, one thing that I realized with film festival that a lot of indie filmmakers don't is researching before you submit.
Yeah. What type of research would you say?
So, perfect example. If I'm going to submit my film, and let's say I only have, I would say 2 African-American cast members, and I'm trying to pitch it to every single African-American film festival, whether it be the San Francisco Black Film Festival or the American Black Film Festival, anything like that, Urban World, and I only have 2, it's going to be very difficult for me to get into those film festivals. And then if you also read some of the criteria of what the film festivals are looking for, like there's no need for you to submit a film if it doesn't have any LGBTQ storylines to an LGBTQ film festival. Like,
right.
do you expect to get in if that's not the thing that you're putting out there into the world?
Well, even the less specific festivals still have a narrative for the year, which is always not obvious either, that the general public or the unless you have like an inside track on that information, right? So that's a challenge too for filmmakers. There's also the political side of who you know and all those things, right?
The bigger the festival, the bigger the politics become. Because it's literally, if you start looking around at some of the bigger film festivals, and a lot of the best and biggest directors of today all started going through the film festival circuit, whether it be Lee Daniels, whether it be Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh. Like, all of them started with film festivals going through that circuit, but as you get higher up, you realize, oh, some of these people have all done stuff or been associated with this film festival in some capacity before they're let in. Or they know this person or this person's behind their production, which automatically gets them a seat at the table. Like, I talked to one of the reps for Sundance going to a film festival, and they were like, yeah, like, I enjoyed your film. I think your film is great. But if you want me to be 100% honest with you, because that's what I asked for, complete transparency, he's like, your your film paid for John David Washington to come fly out here and to have his room booked for the Sundance Film Festival. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, but like you paid for that crew and those cast members to come out here so that we have them at our film festival to be here. So we
and that just doesn't jade the whole thing for you?
No. And you know what? It should. It really should.
It should. It jades. So I think too, before you even get into like the pros and cons of, do you do the festival run? Do you not do the festival run? And I think now, I think that conversation's even more different now than it was, say, 18 months ago, because that whole capacity because of COVID and everything. There's probably, normal movies are having their own issues with theaters, let alone festivals, right? So there's probably, there's bigger fish to fry in that realm. But the bigger question is really, do you have to have an idea of like what your goal is as a filmmaker? And sometimes someone's goal doesn't necessarily align with the festival route, right? Because that's typically, like you said, you mentioned a lot of great directors, and they went through that circuit, but that was also more than likely part of their path, right?
Yeah, so I think one of the big misconceptions with film festivals is it's the director's only path. Like, it's the only path for your film to go to get noticed. And I've learned very quickly, now being on the other side, making more films, putting out shorts, putting out commercials, doing different stuff, that there's so many different avenues that you can attack something and get your stuff seen by the right people, that film festivals are not do or die if you don't get into any. Because I know a lot of good films that didn't get into film festivals, but yet I'm looking on YouTube and I'm like, oh, this thing's great. Like, there's a lot of good indie products out there that's not getting a lot of love.
Very high quality too.
Yeah.
With stellar acting, stellar production, something, and I think just the technology has evolved to where, not that equipment is cheap, it's just more affordable than it was, say, 15, 20 years ago. It's people can get their hands on it easier than any time prior to create a more Hollywood-esque version of film. I've just never been a fan of the festival thing, because I think my journey, or what I want out of life, is not out of
Oh, you're getting deep.
way too big. Not out of life. What I want out of filmmaking isn't gonna come from a festival run.
That's interesting. All right, so I'm going to use this topic, and I'm going to say a reason why I think festivals is good for it, and you go ahead and give me the opposite, because we all know that you're not the biggest fan of film festivals and contests. And
I don't. Fan is such a. I think I just have a. It's like. Why? Okay, let me ask you this. Before we get to that, let me ask you this. Why did you get into filmmaking?
Because I love to tell stories, and that's my favorite outlet of telling them.
Okay, that's the. Would you? Is it a safe assumption to say that's probably the majority of most filmmakers? That's why they get into it.
Yeah, the love of it.
And is it a safe assumption to say that your typical, if your path to getting into the Hollywood studio system is going to be through festivals? That's going to be the most likely path into that.
I feel like it's the most known path.
Most known path. That's fair. Okay. So most known path. Because for me, like when you look at whether, and this is probably going to open up a discussion for a different day, but series are now like the new feature, with streaming services, right? So and binge watching things, but it's to me, there's literally, like, when you get into these very large productions, there's a very small amount of people getting creative input, not even control. I'm just talking about input. The control part is probably even smaller. You have like maybe your showrunner an EP, and the director, if the director has a big enough name, built for themselves. And for me, you know, is it cool to probably be a part of the process of making those films? It's probably amazing, like the first couple times you do it, but you know as well as I do, if you're not being able to express yourself creatively, it's just gonna fall flat at some point. Because once the energy wears off of the big lights and all the big toys that they have on these, you know, huge productions, it comes back to like, well, I don't get to be creative. I just gotta listen to their direction of creativity, which doesn't necessarily mean it's creative. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like why I don't think that's like the path.
Well,
Or that's why I don't think that route, because I don't have any interest in going into that world in that form.
okay, well, I can definitely take it from a side of the independent filmmaker, and one of the things, and one of the biggest things for them is distribution. So whether you make a feature or you make a short, typically a feature, you want to get distribution or get some type of return on that investment that you've done. So going the film festival route in terms of getting some exposure on your film, maybe getting a couple laurels and awards, as well as making a couple connections. And I can only speak from my personal experience because I don't know everybody else's personal experience. But I know I got into rooms and had some conversations with some people about distribution and talked to a couple people that I know for a fact I would have never known or met. But I come to the table with a film that won an award, and now all of a sudden these people that I couldn't get a conversation with or return my emails are now inside a room with me talking about, hey, that was a great feature. What are you doing with distribution? Like, who you talking to? Now, if I would have had the knowledge that I had back then, now there's actually distribution companies that you can submit your film to and not even have to go that route and save some money possibly.
Right.
But independent filmmakers don't know that. Like, they don't know that I know these two for sure. You got Freestyle Digital Media, owned by Byron Allen, you can submit your film and see if they possibly want it. Looking for high quality films. You have indie rights that are looking for high quality films. So you have these different avenues that are like looking for distribution for high quality films that.
So question about, I've heard of indie rights. I'm not sure what I know or if I've heard of the other one, but so I know they're like an aggregator for some, but are they really doing enough to earn their percentage are they getting you places that you can't get yourself? Not to say that it may take a little bit more extra legwork on your side or you know, making moves on your side to do it. But is it something that you could ultimately do yourself if you after going through that?
After going through the process, Amazon is a place that a filmmaker can put their feature up without any help whatsoever.
Right.
Like, you can do that route. And in some cases, depending on how big your audience is or what you're trying to do, that may be the best bet of you just physically putting it up by yourself. Now, I know it takes a minute to get stuff on iTunes. I know it takes a minute, and you may have to do a little bit more research in how they want it formatted for Google Play Store, like those different aggregators. But typically, you can kind of get where you want.
If you're willing to do the work.
If you're willing to do the work. Now, if someone has the secret code to Tubi TV, I've yet to look in, but I do know the requirements of submitting films and stuff, but I truly believe there's a way that you can submit your film to them as well. So, like, when you're looking at some of them, it's like, okay, well, technically, if I put in the legwork and I do the research, I can put my film up there. Now, they do take away that burden because you give them a certain formatted copy of your film and a certain resolution of your film, and they're able to put it up on all those places simultaneously for you, and you don't have to worry about that. Your biggest thing is like, all right, let me market this or push this, whether it be through any type of social media push or anything like that, tell your friends and family. But typically, you can kind of get your film where you want to get. I mean, of course, Netflix and other places now, those are the juggernauts, and those are going to be fist fight, knife to the death type of fights to get it on there. But for the other ones, especially being an indie filmmaker, you can get it up there.
Yeah, I just think, you know, like, and I think being an entrepreneur and living and breathing the indie lifestyle, I just feel like it's better to, you know, educate yourself and learn that process and know the business to not depend on anybody. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I know I can do these things and do that way and not give away this percentage, because if you're contractually obligated to them, does it stop you from, say, for example, somehow, some way, a representative from Netflix sees your film? Is your film locked up with indie rights to a certain extent for a certain amount of time, and you can't do anything with it if someone does want to pick it up?
It's one of those things that it has to go through them. Like,
see, that's a big component of it too, because I know for a lot of indie filmmakers, if Netflix hit me up individually, all right, let's go ahead and cut this deal, do it as quick as possible, no middleman. But if they approach you and you do sign that distribution deal with somebody like an indie rights, it's gonna have to go through them first. Like, that's just how the deal is gonna work out. Also, too, typically they wouldn't approach you, but there's some cases where they do, where they're just straight up and being like, look, we need to acquire some films. Yours is of high quality, good value. You may have a couple names in it, may not have any names in it. They just love the story. But yeah, there's no way that you're getting contacted by them or touched by them to where indie rights is not going to get a piece of that or going to have their hand in the mix of. They're going to be involved with it.
Gotta be. But there's also another thing that I think film festivals have. It's networking.
I can understand that.
Like, it's huge because, like,
and I'm not so. When this discussion does come up a lot at the studio between us and our team, and you know, it's very, I feel like everyone else is a fan of it. I don't want to say I'm not a fan of it.
There's no need to lie on the podcast. Just tell the truth.
It's just not the direction for me. I think I just know that part. So that's
you've made it to where you are without film festivals, though.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of hard for you to look at them and go, well, I need that to do the things that I do. Because perfect example, networking for me, because I'm not the most talkative guy when I meet people, is extremely hard. But when I come in with a mutual respect for your film, or we're both coming to a film, we're already starting on common ground. Right. Like, it's like, okay, well, you're here, I'm here, let's talk. And like, when I went to the Detroit Film Festival, I literally met another filmmaker. These two out in LA, cool, met them, talked to them, end up seeing my film, end up seeing their film, end up supporting them. They're going on to do stuff, I'm going on to do stuff. Constant fans of one another, like checking up on each other. Right. That connection never happens without a film festival, because I would have never met them any other way. Now, I mean, if we're all like chatterbugs like you, we can go into a room, meet anybody, and it's cool.
Yeah. I think it's different too, because I think our paths to where we are right now, I think how my path to being a filmmaker is it was just different because I've acquired all of my production gear before I went into the narrative film side, which I think for the most part it's a huge challenge for people, because that's a lot of their budget that gets consumed, is whether they're renting the gear or having to hire individual people for gear. But you know, you've been with us on enough projects to, you know, our main cost now is typically just actors and crew members, not gear. Like, we're not spending a lot of money. We don't really have to rent anything. Like, we typically own everything that we need to shoot. And I think that was just from years and years and years of growing and building into that from a completely different world, pre-film, I guess you could say. So I think that's also part of my thought process on it, is that a lot of filmmakers starting out is like, I just have these ideas and I need to find a way to get them made, and that's where the festivals come into play, because everyone typically at the beginning of their process is dependent on one another to get something made. They don't necessarily start off with, oh, I have all the gear, I just got to go. You know what I'm saying? So I think that also has a lot to do with the difference in the journey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's not that I'm like I said, it's not that I'm not a fan. It's just not my.
Well, no, it's a common thing that keeps on going around the studios about film festivals, and everybody uses either a film festival or something like that to kind of measure someone's success or their film success, because we live inside a world where the Oscars or the Academy Awards are held up to like this huge standard. And
not in this studio, they aren't.
Oh, we know how you feel, okay? We got your opinion. But when we were talking to some of the people here, we asked them, all right, would you want an Oscar-winning film, or would you want your film to gross $100 million and you're getting 80% of that? Everybody pretty much unanimously was like, oh, that $100 million, because then I can go out and make however many films I want to. Yeah. But then you have some that are like, well, no, I want that Oscar because I know for a fact what doors that open up to me in Hollywood. So like it's kind of funny how people, it's kind of that perception thing, because film festivals is very much of a perception piece. Like, I think it's funny that I always thought I was a pretty decent writer. Then I won a couple awards. Now people are paying me more and coming to me more. I've been the same writer. It's just I got a couple laurels underneath my belt that I can put with my resume and with my film, and now all of a sudden I'm more of a desirable director. I'm more of a desirable writer. But that literally only becomes validated by a festival. It's kind of weird.
I look at awards, validation. I mean, those are cool, like cherries on top, right? But they're not my motivation for anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't do it to get those things. For me, I would rather. So the other outside of the things that we discussed on the festival thing, festival circuit, the other issue that is a pain to me on that piece is, especially if you're shopping or trying to use a short in that circuit, is the fact that, like, if you're going and submitting to festivals that are worth it, like the bigger festivals, there's a lot of regulations, like they want the exclusive on it. So essentially, while you're going through the submission process and waiting to hear back, and depending upon, and they fall through all these random times of the year, you could be sitting on your short film for,
a year and a half,
right? And spending, depending upon how many, some of those I've seen, I think it was it Sundance or Tribeca, they range anywhere $50 to $75 a submission.
That's early submission.
That's early submission. So you're looking at, you do 10, 15 festivals of the big ones globally, you're submitting to them, and you're spending 18 months. And I think about, if I take, say you spend $1,000 roughly on submissions, okay, and you have 18 months for your short, on a short. And then I think about, in today's world of technology, the internet, and target demographic, my film, who I could reach, because ultimately what I want is an audience of people to watch my film. As a filmmaker, the biggest reward is someone to watch my work, to either tell me my story sucks or tell me my story was good, but either way, they spent 5 to 10 minutes watching my story. That's the biggest thing as a filmmaker for me. So if I took $1,000 in 18 months and marketed my film, how many people could see it? And then you see what I'm saying? Like, I could build an audience off of that.
You just had to hit me with that. You couldn't just wait. Okay. So I completely understand that, and I completely get that. And that's a smart route of going. And I can't blame anybody if they want to go that route. But the same exact token, like I said, I can only use my personal experiences. The connections and relationships that I made and the things that I've done, I don't think would have happened without a film festival. And just the relationships of people like, hey, I saw your film. Okay, that was pretty dope. By any chance, do you write romantic comedy? And let me go ahead and tell this to everybody. If you're asking a writer, can they write something? The answer is yes. So
they're not going to say no.
Yeah, there's no need. Can you write this Korean film? Absolutely. So they definitely can write, but that only happened because, and it actually led to more money for me to do other things. But I completely get it, because what happens if a filmmaker's like, you know what, I'm going to go out, make a couple shorts, and what I'm going to do is my sole focus is to get this monetized on YouTube. So then once you get to a certain point, you're literally generating money for yourself to continue to build or to make bigger and better things. So
Right.
like, I can't blame them on that way, but I feel like one of the things that gets stuck in the indie filmmaker's head is like, all right, my fastest route to getting to where I want to go is by a film festival. And they'll look at like someone like Damien Chazelle, who did Whiplash and who did La La Land. And the thing is, you'll hear about Damien Chazelle, but you won't hear about the other hundreds of thousands of people that tried his route and it never happened.
But see, that's the problem. And I don't even think it's just specific to the film industry or entertainment as a whole. I think there's a huge issue just with because we see somebody that for whatever reason excels or gets to somewhere quicker for whatever the random reason is that it worked for this person. Everybody wants to everybody thinks they can develop this method that is going to get there. Just to be honest, enjoy the journey. Like the to me,
But the journey sucks.
it doesn't.
It sucks.
It doesn't. I love the journey, dude.
You love the struggle?
I love the journey. I think there's certain things, like I think there's definitely times that I've looked back at and I'm like, yeah, like I remember going through it and it sucked. But then I also look back at it now and I'm like, damn, shit was just easier then. Like it was like, things are so much more complicated in my life now. Things are a lot different. They're way more complicated. Life was just easier, and I'm not even anywhere. They've grown from where I came, where I started, and now it's just different. So, it's like some days I just want to be the creator. I don't want to be the business guy and the creator. Sometimes I just want to create, because ultimately that's just what I always wanted to do. But when you want to create on your own terms, you have to go and be the business guy.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to be creating for somebody else.
For me, I completely understand, and let me speak out to anybody who's in the indie film world. The struggle sucks, bro. Like, it sucks going through the struggle. Oh my gosh. When you have these great ideas, when you're writing them down, when you're creating them, when you're trying to find funding for them, all that whole process is hard. Now, one thing I do love about the process is when you get over those hills, that feeling of, okay, I wasn't able to get money from here, from there, and then you come up with it somehow. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. For me, driving Uber, Lyft to help me create any of these things. And then when you actually sell something, or when someone's actually like, this is a good film, it made the world of difference to me when one person was like, dude, this movie is good. Someone I don't even know telling me that my movie's good. All right, that's gonna push me for a little bit longer.
Well, a lot of people also, and I really respect the fact that you got out there and got the money together to do your thing. You're like, hey, I'm not getting the opportunities as an actor that I want, so I'm going to create the opportunity myself. And so not only did you create the opportunity for yourself as an actor, but as a writer and a director. A lot of people will not put their money where their mouth is and gamble on themselves. And that's the problem, because you want somebody to invest in your film or invest in your thing, but you won't do it yourself. You can't expect someone to say hypothetically, just a $10,000 super indie budget film. Mm-hmm. You're not even willing to put $10,000 on your own dream, but you expect somebody else to do that and have that much belief in your shit, but you don't. Like, that's insane to me.
It's hard for me to argue on that one, because I completely understand, because it's hard to raise funds. It's hard to do that stuff, but it's how badly do you want it? Because one thing I'll give credit for is for Swipe Club is for the cast and the crew for working their butts off for the amount that they were getting paid or not getting paid.
Yeah, no, I think it's there's no such thing as not enough time or I can't afford it, because it's about priorities. People afford what they want, and they make time for what they want. It's not about not having enough time in the day, or I didn't make it because I didn't have enough time. You make it to where you want to be, and you buy what you want to buy. Because when certain shoes come out, people go and make sure they have those shoes. Or whatever the thing is for that vice for that person, whether it's materialistic or superficial or whatever. But they don't necessarily invest it into whatever their passion or their dream is, or themselves, whether that's taking some type of class to further their knowledge of whatever their thing is. I'm not just talking about entertainment or filmmaking. I'm talking about just in general people putting in the investment into themselves, but they always want to find the investor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And one thing that I can definitely give credit to is YouTube for me, because it taught me a lot. Go to YouTube University. Go on there, type it in, and I know it may sound crazy, but type it into the search bar, press enter, and see what pops up. Now, maybe half of it you won't be able to use, maybe only 10% of it, but that 10% can get you to that next step that you need as a creator. Because there's too many outlets now to where you can go out, reach out, and do something with, and get some knowledge to do what you want. And like I said, there's a lot of ways to make money, whether it's Uber, Lyft, whatever. And I'm just using those because those are easy side jobs that you can kind of do, night hustle, whatever, be a bar back, be a bartender. Make that, the side money is going to be the only way. So you
can live minimalistically. Reduce your bills.
But bro, I got to be fly, bro. I got to flex on
You can H&M, baby. You could be fly. H&M is not expensive. There's ways to be fly and still save.
I don't know how to do that. I'm glad you do. I'm glad that you've made it up to that level, but for the majority of us. And one thing about like film festivals, and you know what? I feel like film festivals is the thing that everybody hears and wants to be a part of. I think it's also an ego thing too. I think
it's just been the thing for so long, and it's just, I think anytime you start dabbling into filmmaking, it's just the norm. Like, it's just, it comes with the territory. It's automatic.
So, all right. So we've talked about film festivals. Now for you, like when it comes to contests, whether it's writing contests.
Oh, so you really want to talk about things that suck?
Okay.
No, because that's what we were saying. Like things that really, like the journey sucks for you, right?
Absolutely, it sucks.
Well, I think people that take advantage of, people that are like, what do they call this? Like people that profiteer off of, dream chasers and people.
Profiteer? What are you talking about?
So, people that host contests and make a substantial amount of money off of these contests with giving nothing back to, or a real, because when you have a contest, when you compete for something, right? Like there's usually a decent prize or reward of some sort, right?
Can you go ahead and hit that red button for me over there? Because it sounds like you're about to.
The air horn.
Sounds like you're about to throw somebody under the bus.
No, so, okay. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We're just going to get right into it. Okay. So, here, and I'm sure here in Atlanta, but I know this is definitely across America, and I believe it is also global. We have the 48-Hour Film Project. I've been a part of it twice, once on someone else's team. I think it was 2016, and then in 2019 was the last year before COVID.
I've only been an actor on it, so I don't know the other side of it.
Okay, so let me break it down just in a very simplistic numbers form. Okay, so this is now their corporate office. I want to say is in Washington D.C. Right. So this is a competition that's global, takes takes place on different weekends throughout the year. You have 48 hours to assemble a team. Well, you assemble your team prior to, but you write your script, you shoot it, you edit, you turn it in.
Okay.
Now, there's a fee to enter. Their early bird, so we'll say I think the cheapest is, what is it? $148 for a team to enter. Okay. That's the early bird.
I did not know that.
So $148, you can have, it can be the minimum of one person to as many people on the team. The year 2019 that we did it here in Atlanta, there was 96 teams that competed. 96. So just off of the entrance fees, and that's considering, or we'll take into account, say everybody just went ahead and got in on the early bird special, right? They made $14,208. Okay? What you get for that, the team lead, or the person who registers the team and pays the fee, gets 2 free tickets to the screening of the films, right? So they have 4 days of screenings. The screenings take place at the Midtown Art Cinema here in Midtown Atlanta.
Is there more people that are allowed to come? I mean, if you're only given 2 tickets and if you have a team and a cast.
Well, then they sell tickets.
Okay.
The tickets, I want to say they were either $14 or $15 a ticket. So essentially, you're paying them to make a film. Then the rest of your team who worked nonstop has to pay to watch their film. Now, they do this for 4 days. And it's usually for 4-hour windows. They have, because the film can only be a max of 7 minutes. So typically they have like 4 different screening groups on each day. Mm-hmm. And I went with the low end of seating of a 200-person theater, because I've actually rented this theater out, so I know the cost of it. So a cost of for 3 hours is typically $825. So for 400, I went on the high end and said 1,000, right? So if you did 4 screenings, comes out to essentially, what does it come out to? It comes out to $12,000 a day that they're making off of ticket prices between those 4 screenings. Times 4 days is $48,000, minus the $4,000 that they're giving to the theater for the theater rental. Mm-hmm. Now, they don't have to pay that up front. The theater just takes it off the top of the sales and then pays you the difference. So there's no money up front that they're spending on the theater. So that brings us, so what is that? 44,000 plus the 14,208. That's $58,208. Okay? Is that? Yeah, 50. So now we're not done. It gets better, or should I say worse?
Please, Mike, explain to me, how does it get better? Because as of right now,
let's just actually say it gets worse. So after they have the initial 4 days of screenings, mm-hmm. then they have an awards ceremony, which I want to say it's not free for anybody to go in. They're going to charge you to get into the awards ceremony. They're serving drinks, but you're paying for all these different pieces of that party. And I don't remember if it was like $15 or $20 to get in. I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm not even going to try to equate how much money they possibly made in there. But there was at least 100, 150 people in there. And here's the shitty part, or one of them, or a couple of them. One, the awards that they give out are paper awards that look like the little attendance awards you would get in elementary school with your name on it. Do you remember your teacher would send you home? I don't know how your attendance was in elementary school, but if you're late, it's usually your parents' fault. But that was what you got, mm-hmm. right? The grand prize for each city was Vegas Pro editing software and some software called Screenwriter or something, which were also
not Final Draft.
No. Why? That's the industry leading standard. It wouldn't make sense to actually give somebody something that the rest of the industry uses. But those 2 companies or those 2 products were sponsors of the event. So they didn't spend money on getting those prizes to the people, which ultimately, if the people who won the contest or the 48-hour project, they probably don't need either one of those, right? I mean, they wrote a script, they edited. Like, why not find another way? Or now I don't want to sound like I'm just shitting on them.
Because that's what it sounds like you're doing.
The winner of the city, each individual city moves on to Filmapalooza, which is like the big thing, and then the winner of all of that goes to Cannes, the short film corner at Cannes, which I get is a big thing for festival people. Mm-hmm. But when you show up now I'm going to tell you, 96 teams, I'm going to tell you, Atlanta's it's probably their biggest market for filmmakers, because I doubt any other city had 96 teams sign up. And I just think, like, granted, hey, that's, a grand prize amongst, you have, say, 300 cities competing, and, the winner can go to Cannes. Cool. But you're making a shit ton of money, and basically you're profiting off of people just wanting to see their work on the big screen. Like, it's not even like when we did it, to me, I did not get into the competition for any of the prizes at all. It was simply because just the adrenaline rush of making a film in that short amount of time, because it's like at the end of it, we had a film. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. It was like we wrote it, we shot it, we edited, we turned it in. Like, that was the big thing. Now here's the more fucked up part. If it's not fucked up already, this is where it gets interesting. Okay? Now, would you agree that this sounds a little? What do you think, Curtis? How does this sound so far from just the financial reward point of view?
I definitely don't understand why whoever the filmmakers are, the awards aren't better for that region in terms of what they get. Mm-hmm. And also, too, I don't understand why there's only 2 free tickets going out. Like I said, I was an actor, so I acted on my piece. And I didn't understand, because when I messaged the director, I was like, oh, when's the screening and different stuff like that? And he told me. Mm-hmm. But the way that he said it, it was kind of like I had to do something extra. And I just assumed, oh, he doesn't want me to show up. Now I know it was because I would have to pay to get into there. Because, he didn't pay anybody. I mean, I'm assuming that you're not allowed to pay anybody for doing the film.
No, there's nobody, you can't pay crew or actor. Like, it's everybody on a part of the team. Everything has to be voluntary.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no, you can't pay anybody for anything, and it's just, and see, it's like they have you because who's not going to want it? Like I said, most of the people, it's all indie filmmakers. 99.9% of them have never seen their work on a movie screen.
Well, it's confusing to me because, like you said, yeah, the numbers thing is a big thing that kind of really stands out. And in terms of the awards, it doesn't even make any sense because you're not even giving me the full or the best version. Like, I could get if you were going to give me the Adobe Suite. Mm-hmm. I could get if you were going to give me some souped up version of Avid or a final draft, or assure that 2 to 3 people get final draft. You know what I'm saying? Because those things aren't crazy expensive. Mm-hmm. So you could have done that. Or
there's a lot of things that filmmakers are in need of that you could include and make a better prize that's worthy for
some gear, a camera,
a cinema package, anything. Get them some gift cards for Peerspace for booking locations to shoot at in the future. There's so many different clever prizes that could be given away or partnered with. It's just it's a lack of creativity to me. It's a corporate greed thing, if you ask me. Now, this is where their greed really sinks their teeth into our community, and I think it really pisses me off, if you can't tell.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that, if nothing else.
Because I haven't even got to the worst part yet. So you've completed all these things, right? You went through, you paid your money, you went to the awards, you did all these things. They got your money. They've already, so for literally, maybe a couple, whatever their effort is in it. So 99% of, because I know a ton of filmmakers, I know they're not reading the fine print of these contests.
Oh, the fine print.
Yeah, so you know where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
So the fine print for the 48-hour film project says that they own 20% of whatever you create.
20% how? Like?
Of the film that you create for their contest. So you're paying them, and you're paying to enter their contest for them to own 20%. And then also, in some scenarios, they require that they require permission, like, for example, to be licensed to TV or certain things that this is in the fine print.
Hold on. Because I want to make sure I get this correct. Because you
Yes.
said 20%. All right. So let's hypothetically say, boom, I go to the festival. I make a film about wolves or something.
Mm-hmm.
I make that film. I think it's dope. I may not end up winning. Someone ends up seeing my short.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, I want to make a TV pilot out of this.
Mm-hmm.
They get 20% of that hard work that I put in to make it and create
They
it.
can. Whether they make the effort to go and do and collect on that, but their fine print says that they own 20% of the film.
How if you didn't do any of the work to? I mean,
None of it, and paid to be in the contest, but they're going to own the work. They're going to own the creative behind it. I just find that to be, and here's the more asinine part behind it, is that now, so each of the cities of this contest has what they call a producer for that city, which oversees the competition and all the, they organize, there's the meeting place on day one where you get your requirements, which is your genre, your character's name, and the special elements that you have to incorporate into your film. Then there's so they coordinate all that, the people to work that event they have, and then they coordinate the drop off. I think now it's digital because of COVID. It used to be physical. You had to go and drop it off, and they're in the ones that are providing the constant communication and this and that. Now, here's the two really messed up pieces to me is that one, the previous producer of the show, I believe they have a new one now, but the previous producer, I think he has maybe 3 or 4 credits.
Is he when you say produce, like he's just over it, running it?
Running the
He's not a judge or anything like that.
No, that's interesting you bring up judge, because now this kind of ties together. I don't know if the producer judges or not, because when you read on their website about how things are judged, it's a very gray area. Now, it says that their judges are professionals and experts in this arena, and they have some comparison to Siskel and Ebert, which I think is fucking a little outrageous, considering that the producers, the current and past producers, are people that don't have it. They have the most minuscule background in film, running a film competition. But you're going to tell me, and now you never know who the judges are. So, I'm always a big person that says, consider the source, right? So I'm going to spend all this money. Obviously for the super new indie filmmaker, spending this kind of money to enter a contest, go see the movie at the theater, go to an awards thing and do all this stuff, and when they could be spending that some other way in their filmmaking endeavor.
Yeah.
To be judged by people that we don't even get to know who is judging us. Is that fair?
No. I did not know all that. Okay, so
That's what I'm
that
saying.
sucks. I don't even know what to say after you just said that. Yeah, that just sucks.
I just feel like I think we have an amazing film community here in Atlanta, and I know there's a lot of great and amazing film communities coast to coast, and I just think like there's got to be a way to, stand up and not let people take advantage of the creatives in our community. Like, we got to stand up against that. Like, the thing is, the bad part is like, I really enjoy the process of the 48, like working with our team to accomplish something. I don't give a shit about the reward piece of it or any of that. Like, it's solely the experience and the camaraderie that goes along with it and seeing what we can pull off in that time frame. But what they're doing, they have the wool pulled over on people's eyes, man. It's a shame.
Well, here's my question: were you going to do it this year, the 48-hour film?
So I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it last year. I've been uncovering this for some time, and COVID, just you start getting into deep dives because you don't have anything else to do, and that's just what happens. And so this is how all this uncovered, and I just start, because again, remember I said, like, some days I just want to be the creative, but then there's the business entrepreneur side. So when I went to the last one in 2019, I just started doing the math in my head, because as a business owner, you're always calculating costs, because you got to make sure you're not falling in the red and the negative. So I'm just like, okay, cheapest ticket or the cheapest entrance fee is 148. There's 96 teams. Boom, I'm already doing the math, and I'm just like, they're not giving anything back. They're just capitalizing on people's dreams here of seeing this up here.
Okay, so one of the last things I'd like to say as we're leaving off on this one, because first of all, that was a crap ton of knowledge.
It was, and I'm sorry, I got on a tangent, I got on the soapbox, but I'm very passionate about creatives and their work and making sure, I just don't like when...
See, because like I said, I'm a writer, and I know from writing contests how the wording in those guidelines is written to where they can take and finesse your work and add one or two different characters, and there's nothing you can do about it. Right. Or if they take something that's inspired from your work, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Yeah. There's a show on Netflix right now that I know for a fact one of my friends entered it into a contest, and she's getting nothing for that.
That sucks, dude.
And the thing is, that was her first time ever screenwriting. I told her that she's an amazing storyteller, and now that's what's up there.
And she don't even get her name in the credits.
No.
Yeah, that sucks, man. So check it out, guys. We definitely appreciate you guys checking out this episode of Creative AF. Make sure to hit that subscribe button or that follow button, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. Make sure to drop a comment in the section below and let us know if there's any type of episode or anything you want us to cover in the future. Anything that we've talked about in today's episode will be in the description in the show notes below. And until next time, ciao.
Powered by M3 Creative.